we are going to transition to talk about volume, okay? And our learning goal today is, by the end of today, you need to be able to find the volume of rectangular prisms and cubes, okay? So yesterday we also talked about other figures, such as pyramids and things like that. But today we are only going to be able to be finding the volume of rectangular prisms and cubes. Okay, so simply put, volume is the amount of space that a solid figure takes up, okay? Just like area is a two-dimensional thing, right? When I find the area of something, I'm just finding how much space it takes up. But when I'm talking about a 3D figure, like a rectangular prism or a cube, does it only take up space on the ground, or does it take up space in the air as well? In the air. So it's three-dimensional, yes? So we talked about how when you're measuring a line, you use normal units, right? You just use normal inches, for example, right? Because a line is just one dimension. When I have two dimensions, when I'm talking about a football field or the top of a desk, how many dimensions do I have? When I'm talking about a square, a rectangle, a triangle, how many dimensions do we have? Two. We have length and width, right? So then we have to use square inches as our unit, yes? Now, what do you think we need to use? What kind of units do we need to use when we're talking about area? When we're talking about volume. Henrik?
Cube.
We need to use cubic units because not only can we measure the volume, how much stuff can fit in this bucket by only having a length and a width? No. What else do we need? We have a third dimension now. We have Aditya?
Depth.
Not depth. We have length times width. We have Atharva? Height. So we have the length, we have the width, and we have the height. So because now we have three dimensions, we need to use cubic inches or cubic units. It can be cubic centimeters, cubic meters, cubic feet, cubic yards. They need to be cubic because there's three dimensions that you're measuring in at the same time. Okay? To find 48, did we multiply the length times the width times the height? To find out how many cubes would fit in this box, do we multiply the length times the width times the height? Very good. That the volume, which is the amount of stuff that can fit inside of a rectangular prism or a cube, is the product of the length, the width, and the height. So you want to write this down. Now, when we're talking about the product, what does it mean? When we say something is the product of something, what mathematical operation should you be thinking in your head? When I say the product of something, Chris? Multiplication. So it says the volume of a rectangular prism or cube is the product of the length, the width, and the height. So in order to find the volume, we need to multiply the length of a figure times the width of a figure times the height. Write this down. Right? Let's think about the cubes. It says a cube measures 3 feet on each side. What is the volume of the cube? Now, how could you solve this problem? When you read this word problem, what's the first thing you should always do, Daniel?
The first thing you should always do is that you should always find the length, the height.
No. What should you always do when you read a word problem about a cube, Sawyer? No. What should you do, Riley? You should draw the cube. I expect to see everyone's drawings of cubes when we're working with volume, surface area, geometry things that have to do with figures. Okay, so the first thing you would do is draw a cube. Now, cubes are 3D figures, and they look like this. Okay, and what do we know about cubes? Is every face the same?
Yes.
Is every measurement the same? Is the length, the width, and the height all the same? Okay, so in this word problem, how long is the length? Kevin? 3 feet. Okay, let's label it. How long is the width? Carmel? 3 feet. Let's label it. How tall is the cube? What's the height of the cube? Goni?
3 feet.
3 feet, because in a cube, all those measurements are the same. Okay, now the question's asking us, what is the volume of the cube. So what do we know? How can we find the volume of something? Aditya?
Multiplying the length
Mhm.
the width by the height.
Good. So we can to find the volume, we know that volume is length times width times height. So we know that the volume, V for volume, will equal the length. What's the length of this cube, Michaela? 3 feet. So we can multiply the length times what's the width? What's the width of this cube, Swati? 3 feet. Good. And what is the height? Length times width times height, Jonathan? 3 feet. Okay. So what's 3 times 3?
9.
Good. And then times 3?
27.
So we know that the volume is 27. What's my units? Cubic feet. So you would write feet with a little 3. The volume is 27 cubic